What is good, Stackers University? It is summertime and it is getting hot in her. That aside, if we're really being honest with ourselves, the first 6 months of this year haven't been as impressive as we would have expected back in January, with gold only being up 5% and silver down 5%. And while we all enjoy a nice pullback in prices because it represents a sale and allows us to purchase metals on the cheap, I have to tell you that perspective is starting to feel a little bit like finding the silver lining in dark clouds. But once this video is over, my hope is that you will be convinced that the silver in that silver lining is more than enough to make silver one of the best investments in your life, even better than gold. Now, before you think I've gone all Nicolas Cage and Face Off and switched bodies with some other YouTube creator, it's still me, Dr. Stacker. But if you give me some time, I believe I can convince you that silver is the best purchase you will ever make. Before I can convince you that the silver and the silver lining is more than enough, which actually starts with the understanding of the history and the meaning of the expression. We all know the expression as a colloquial way of kind of being optimistic and finding something positive in negative situation. The phrase actually comes from John Milton's 1634 poem Comius, where he wrote, "Was I deceived, or did a sable cloud turn forth her silver lining on the night? I did not err. There does a sable cloud turn forth her silver lining on the night, and cast a gleam over this tufted grove." With his words, the creator creates this great metaphor comparing the silvery shiny edges of a cloud that occurs when it's backlit by the sun or the moon to this kind of unseen silver lining, or how we find positive in difficult situations. That aside, what is actually important for this video is Milton's poem Comius, which in a nutshell is a story about a sorcerer and a virtuous lady. And this virtuous lady becomes separated from her two brothers while traveling in the woods when she encounters an evil sorcerer named Comius. Comius is a sorcerer and what they call a necromancer. And a necromancer was believed to be able to communicate with the dead, usually in order to obtain some kind of insight into the future. That term makes me think about a lot of YouTubers out there pushing their special ability to determine the real value of metals and making absurd $500 ounce projections. But that aside, the important part of this story is Comius uses his magic to imprison the lady. And while he tries to corrupt her to his world and his philosophy and his way of thinking by tempting her desires, and despite it all, the lady exercises what they refer to as recta ratio, or the right thinking, when tempted by Comius. And it is her rational self-control and virtuosity that allows her to free her mind, which ultimately leads to her freedom. And I like this story so much because Comius represents so many things in our lives where we are tempted, be our soul, our body, or our brain, and we have to choose what is more important to us. Or we have this battle of the flesh that we talk about in the church. And thankfully, the good Lord has given us free will, so we get to choose. But that doesn't mean we won't be tempted. In the world of precious metals investing, it's far too easy to be tempted by the Comiuses here on YouTube with their tempestuous price projections. But we cannot forget the moral of the Comius story. And it was that the virtuous lady ultimately freed herself by resisting the barrage of attempts made by Comius to tempt her into accepting and embracing his philosophy. And it was the virtuous lady's ability to be clear thinking and resistant to his attempts that ultimately led to her freedom. My hope is that you can resist all of these projections and things that you hear, because if we do, then we will never be in a situation where we have to find a silver lining to our investings. And that really leads me to the video hook, no silver lining. I want you to think about this. When a miner strikes silver or gold and they find it, do they ever say, "Oh, it's a bunch of rock with a silver or gold lining"? Or do they become excited that they found silver and gold? With silver prices down again, it's easy to feel like this has been a wasted time of sorts or wasted money, but that really depends on what you focus on. The rock that the metal is connected to, or the metal that you found. Congratulations, my friend, you've already won. You've already got the prize. And that's the realization of the importance of having silver and gold in your lives. That is the discovery. That is the prize. It's not that silver has to reach triple digits in order for you to win, or in order for it to be a good investment. When you attach numbers like that, that's equivalent to focusing on the rock around the metal as opposed to the metal. While we are forced to talk about gold and silver prices in terms of dollars, we really need to focus on ounces, as gold and silver never change. They just are what they are. It's the fiat's association that changes. It's our dollar going up and down, not the metals. Silver and gold don't have an identity crisis. They know what they are and their value. Remember, price versus value. Price is doing whatever it's going to do on a daily basis. And it only really matters in terms of how we convert our paper money into real money and vice versa. Because the real value, though, of metals can only go up as we watch the fake money around the world march towards their inevitable end, while gold and silver will never end. This is why we as investors are more important than the investment. It's why you are your biggest risk to your investment. Your ability to frame, to see, to know, and understand your investment is what matters most. Otherwise, your quote unquote success will be framed by metrics that don't matter and could easily lead you to believe what people like Dave Ramsey and Mark Cuban have to say about precious metals. Your 1 ounce of silver or gold bought you, what it buys you today is what it bought you 100 years ago, regardless of today's fiat price. So now let's explore why I say silver is the best investment you will ever make, even better than gold. Silver is typically the first metal purchase we ever make, in particular because of its price point. It's this inexpensive entry point that gives and as well as unlocks silver's superpower. And as most of us can attest to, buying precious metals has completely changed our lives. A major part of that transformation comes from silver providing a really inexpensive way to enter into the very different world of precious metals ownership. I often reference this point as kind of Alice in Wonderland, where she has the realization that things on one side don't make sense on the other side. When we get that first piece of gold and silver in our hands, we start to feel different. We start to think differently. And most importantly, we begin to behave differently when it comes to our money. We start to understand that the more metals we have, the better off we are. That government, but especially personal debt and deficits are bad for us. That we need insurance when navigating this world. That precious metals provide us with an insurance stability and purchasing power, all because of that first purchase of silver or gold that you made. I'm willing to bet that your financial lives completely changed simply because you became a stacker. I hear stories all the time from people like you who tell me how they went from being in debt to actually having savings and a stack, that they don't overspend money anymore, that they're more intentional about how they spend their fiat dollars now. I believe some of this is because psychologically, we know paper money is equivalent to toilet paper. It's disposable. The Bible doesn't talk to us about using cloth or paper as money. It talks to us about using gold and silver. It's inevitable that paper money becomes debased, that we abuse it, because it's essentially the same stuff we use to wipe our bums with, but not silver and gold. You hold on to it and instantly you value it differently. It's like once it touches your hands, it activates a latent or dormant gene in your DNA and you are forever changed. For many of us, that transformation started because of silver's entry price point. Whenever we talk about the true value of silver and gold, we have to resist this temptation of talking about it in dollars, because its performance in terms of annual price change pales in comparison to the value and the impact it's had on us personally, which often leads us to completely change our financial lives. While we have seen weaknesses and we will continue to see weakness in prices for a variety of reasons, I want you to see those dollar sign prices as opportunities to continue what you've been doing, living a very different financial life because of your very first purchase. Remind yourself to forget the price, especially when there are dark clouds around, because we don't have to find a silver lining to the situation. We don't need silver to go to $100, because where there are dark clouds around us, living a very different financial life because of our very first purchase. Remind yourself to forget the price, especially when there are dark clouds around, because we don't have to find a silver lining in this situation because we've already found silver. And what silver has done for you, for me, is what makes it the best investment in the world, even better than gold. There's no silver lining to this situation, only silver. And silver is showing you, and has shown many of us, a whole new world. Oh, never mind, I'm not gonna say, but you know, a fantastic point of view, a whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew. Okay, anyway, some of y'all will get that Aladdin reference later. I know it was a corny dad joke, but hey, it's all I got, folks. In the comments section, was gold or silver your first purchase? When? What was it? And do you still have it? Or you can simply put an A+ in the grade book because you haven't always been an A+ student, but you are now because at Stackers University, we always stack smarter and never stop learning.